You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Oh, do you know what? Can I be honest with you? I've been a little bit, I don't know, stressed about this conversation. Roger?
You shouldn't be stressed about meeting me.
You're a lovely guy. You're a 100% lovely guy. And I want to just say thank you for coming in person. I know you were around the Gatwick area this morning and afternoon. You did a podcast there. You're driving down from Oldham near Manchester.
Yeah, 5 hours down.
5 hours down.
Yeah.
So you've done a podcast. Now you're going to do a podcast with me. It's 6:30 in the evening or thereabouts. And then you're going to wrap this up in an hour and 20 minutes, whatever. And then drive home again. Dude, this is a long day for you.
No, it's good. It's absolutely fine. And I think it was meant to be because we were meant to do it remotely first and it didn't work. And then I said I was down somewhere. I didn't even know where you were. So I think I'm a believer in fate. I think this was meant to be. So here I am. And thank you for having me.
No, I think it's very important. I think it's very important that we talk about this topic. In my field of medicine, it was a tribe. Like everything, it's
Yes.
a tribe. And when I saw things going wrong 3 years ago, yesterday, I went on TV and I spoke out against mandates because it goes against ethical, the tenets of medical ethics, informed consent, bodily autonomy. But no one else in my tribe spoke out. And I was like, guys, this is wrong. What we're doing is wrong. Why is no one talking about it? And I find that quite a lot. People in their tribe tend to cover things up and not talk about it and not.
And why do you think that is? Because I ask myself that question every day. I look at myself and I think, are you mad? You're not because what you're talking about, what I'm talking about is common sense. There's a need to speak out. There are children being gang raped and we can't speak out or we shouldn't speak out. What sets you apart from everyone else? And I've never got to that answer.
I think it's human nature. And I think it's not unique to any culture, religion or people. People like to keep their dirty laundry to themselves. They don't like to step out of line so that they're ostracized within their community. Because they're all, essentially everything's a cult. So they don't want to speak out again in their cult. They don't want to be ostracized by their colleagues. We are herd-like people.
Herd-like, absolutely.
We follow the groupthink. We justify things in our heads. I think there's a lot of that. People like to conform, Roger. They don't like to be different and divergent because you put your head above the parapet, what happens, mate?
Oh, you get took out. You get took out. You get shot at, definitely.
Yeah, and then sometimes maybe there's examples of people who've endured that, and then people go, "Oh, I'm not doing that. Then I'm just going to stay quiet." And I think we need to change that as a society. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Labour politician, whatever it is, you need to be able to speak out and say, you know what, what's happening is wrong, and
that's fundamentally
people are
it, isn't
tribal.
it?
People are tribal.
Right is right and wrong is wrong. And I think there's something inside of all of us where we have a duty to, you feel it, don't you? You feel it inside you. You felt it inside you. But this is wrong and I need to say something. And I doubt for 1 minute you stopped to think of the consequences. You didn't rationally think, okay, let's go away and do a, what would happen if I'd spoke out? What would happen if I did? You didn't do any of that. You just instinctively and impulsively felt you had to do something.
Well, let me explain to you why I found this. I mean, it's not really stressful. I mean, I don't mean that. But what I mean is like normally when it comes to a podcast, I just totally chilled out, don't even think about it, just get in my groove, done my research, blah, blah, blah. Like recently I did one on Syria and what actually happened there. But this one, I'm kind of like emotionally invested in it. So what do I mean by that? My parents are from Pakistan. I used to be a Muslim. I went to the mosque. I, knew lots of Pakistanis and lots of Muslims. And we're going to talk about Pakistani grooming gangs. And it's very upsetting because I'm Pakistani. And it's it's not good. It's not good to be, tarnished with this thing. Like, what are these people? Who are these people? How many of them are they in the community? What is the community doing about it? It's just Can I be honest with you? It's upsetting me. Just like, for example, if I was a Catholic priest and I found, or a Catholic, and I found out, you know what? The priests in my local church were all pedophiles and raping children. As a Catholic going to the church, I'd be like, oh, seriously? Like, really? It's upsetting, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I was just a bit like, "Grr."
So I get that, and I'd flip it round, and I think people from backgrounds like ours have a duty to be part of the solution. You know, that's how I square it with myself. I think, you know, because I get so much abuse from people from my own background. Why are you talking about this? You know, it's happened in the past, or if it's still happening now, it's not happening to our children. Why are you talking about this? And I'm like thinking, no, we have a duty. We have a duty to be part of the solution. Yeah. And I genuinely believe, because I didn't know you were Pakistani, but I genuinely believe, and I have many Pakistani friends, people I consider family who are Pakistani. Look, we've got a duty to fix this because it's within our own community. There's something cultural driving this within a subsect of our community. And if we're not part of the solution, then it's very easy for those from the outside to demonize all of us. And there's something very wrong with what's gone on. And it's been allowed to continue, and that's made it worse. So the challenge or the issues isn't just within the community and the demographic from where the abusers come from. It's the culture that allowed it to flourish, and in the environment that allowed it or facilitated the subsequent cover-up.
Yeah, we need to talk about this because, you know, I've thought about this long and hard. There is no monopoly on child abuse to any ethnic group or color or religion. I've done my research. As far as I can find, every religion has got a bit of a dirty closet, you know, whether it's Orthodox Jews, it's Muslims, Catholics, whatever. You know, rape in Pakistan is rife. Rape in India is rife. Yeah. Rape in Afghanistan is rife. There's been Belgian grooming gangs. There's Westminster. It's just, you know, the politicians. We know what they're all about.
Well,
Jimmy Savile.
Yeah, Jimmy Savile, a young woman in Westminster, was it this week? I think I read how she had a drink spiked by what would potentially be an MP, and now it'll be hushed over, I would imagine, but it made it out into the news enough that a young woman had a drink spiked inside Parliament.
Wow. And the thing is, I was looking at the statistics, NSPCC, which is the National Something Society of Protection of Children.
Cruelty of
children. 1 in 25 children in the UK have child abuse.
Yeah.
That's a shocking and disgusting statistic.
It's a shame, isn't it? It's a national shame.
It's a national shame, mate. Right? Now, I also know they're not all Pakistanis who've done that. A lot of the child abuse is done by people who are relatives and friends.
Well, the majority of it is in family. Yeah? The majority of child abuse occurs inside the family.
Now, having said all that, the fact that it's every religion, every culture, we now still have a problem, though. We have a problem where gangs of Pakistani men from 20 to 50 or 60, whatever, years of age, are targeting specifically white or sometimes Indian, Hindu, or Sikh girls.
Absolutely.
I've read that 1 or 2 were Pakistanis, but I think that's not the norm. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I think what's took place is there is a subsect. They haven't historically just targeted white working class girls. They've targeted other girls from other backgrounds. So in the earliest records I found is they targeted Sikh girls. They targeted clearly Hindu girls, Indian girls, and they're targeting non-Muslim girls. I think if you want to look at it, try and frame it in how to describe it, they are targeting non-Muslim girls, and that follows through with some of the recent cases I've come across. And when I say recent, I mean December last year. You know, so a month old or 6 weeks old, where they're now starting to also target Muslim girls who do not conform to the perception of what Muslim girls should be like according to Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see there's a correlating factor here.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, this is where I get a bit annoyed. Like, what the frack is going on here? Because I'm just going to look up some stuff that, you know, I don't want to get wrong. You know, I started looking into it, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really watch the news or listen to news much. And I thought, look, let's just dig into it. And it's like, You got the Rochdale Grooming Gang, which was 2008 to 2012, which was a group of Pakistani men in Rochdale, again exploiting vulnerable teenage girls, grooming them with alcohol and drugs and gifts before subjecting them to sexual abuse and trafficking them, raping them. And 9 men were convicted in 2012. But then actually there's another one in Rotherham. It sounds similar. Rochdale, Rotherham, they're up there in the north. Rotherham, 1,400 children.
Just pause and on that number.
Yeah.
And those are conservative estimates by Alexis J, who did the report. 1,400 children.
Yeah.
It's in a small town. Rotherham is a small town.
How many people are in Rotherham?
A couple of 100,000, as in the entire population.
A couple of 100,000.
Entire population.
And are we talking, is that the one near Leeds, Rotherham?
So Rotherham is just outside of Sheffield.
That's it. Yeah. And Rochdale's outside Manchester.
Rochdale is just outside of Manchester.
I should know. I'm from Glasgow. I should know all this, but
But it's the northwest. What connects all of these is the motorway network, like the M62 and the roads, the back roads that connect Bradford and Sheffield to Rochdale and Oldham. So there's the.
So are these Rochdale and Rotherham, sorry, are the Pakistani men from those areas, or are they coming from elsewhere?
Okay, so it works in 2 ways. First of all, they traffic the children all over the country. So the testimony of the children is very, very clear. They were trafficked all over the country to venues like takeaways or even hotels, houses, flats where men were queuing up to take their turn.
No.
Yeah. So this is disgusting. It's disgraceful, and it's unexplainable. You know that sort of behavior is unexplainable. But in terms of the men themselves, the location really isn't just the contributing factor. You're of Pakistani heritage, so you'll understand the bravery system. You'll understand the clan-based structure.
The what system?
Bravery.
No,
so clan. There's a clan. They all belong to a clan, a tribe. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's.
Sorry. So just to let you know, I grew up in a little weird cult in Islam called the Ahmadiyya cult. So
I know the Ahmadiyyas. Okay.
I grew up in the Ahmadiyya cult.
So the world I grew up in, you were never a Muslim to start with, yeah?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I was told I was never a Muslim, and actually, I didn't have many Pakistani friends.
No, you'd be ostracized because you belong to the Ahmadiyyas, yeah.
So you get it.
Yeah,
do you see what I mean? So other Pakistanis thought we were like.
Oh, you're not included. Yeah.
So I didn't have much dealing with them.
No, yeah.
So that whole culture of Brahmi, I don't actually know about it. So if you can explain it.
So it's like an extended family network. Okay, so if we look at the extended family network and how it's remained that way, most recently, separate to the grooming gang issues, you probably heard, and it comes every now and then, the issue re-emerges of first cousin marriages.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah, massive problem. More than 1 in 2. Listen, more than 50% of these guys marry their first cousins.
Mate, right, listen, I need to explain something. This is a massive problem. And I'm saying this as someone from the Pakistani community, and even within my Ahmadiyya, I saw it a lot. But I'll give an example. When I was a junior doctor, I went and did pediatric surgery in Glasgow. This is 1999, 2000, okay? And I'm on the Royal Hospital for Sick Children in Glasgow, and there's a ward. I'm doing pediatric surgery. And the Pakistani community makes up about 4 or 5% of the population. 50% of the kids were Pakistani origin. All with severe mental disabilities, congenital heart problems. It was rife. And I would say to the doctors, like, oh my goodness, like they're all Pakistani. And, being Pakistani origin, quite often the consultant would say to me, oh, can you please translate? Because I love the people could not speak good English. Yeah. So I was speaking it, and there was all consanguineous, marriages, cousins. And it's a problem. I'm telling you right now, this is a huge problem.
Agreed. And what that allows for is a clan-based structure to become even more stronger than ordinarily in a family. So you married your cousin, who's married your cousin, who's married your cousin, and they're all interlinked. The families are tribal, they're linked, they're connected. So these men were all connected as well, in some sort of association. They weren't just random strangers who found each other on the internet. They belonged to a group of men who'd all married each other's cousins, or
So they're all family.
they're all extended family. Let's say extended family. Yeah, extended family.
Yeah.
And what they would do is they would groom these children. And in the Rochdale case that you gave an example of, the 2008 case, what they operated around is taxi ranks and takeaways, and picked on those sorts of two types of young women, really. One was those in the care homes that they knew they could bribe with cigarettes or takeaways and stuff, and build some sort of relationship with, and take those children on a journey where they thought they were exchanging things they didn't care about, sex, for cigarettes or kebabs, even, and there's
just getting a bit of attention.
Yeah, and attention, and because they came from they were in care, and they came from broken families, and someone paying attention to them, and treating them with what they thought was respect, or treating them as an adult, and then one thing led to another, and before they knew it, they were in too deep. So there's that sort of demographic, and then the others were actually just young girls whose parents were perhaps more liberal and allowed them to stay out a bit longer, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Nothing untoward, nothing in terms of what I would consider bad parenting. If a 14-year-old stayed out till 10 o'clock at night and came home.
So what you're trying to say is all these kids aren't necessarily broken kids from broken homes, from social services being looked after in special childcare.
There are definitely some from that demographic, but no, not all of them. And the sadness, and there's so many sadnesses I experience when I found out about this and I worked in this space. But one of the sadnesses I found as a brown-faced, man of Bangladeshi heritage, was that many of these girls were engaged in conversations, friendships with men or young men of a similar age to them or slightly older, not a massive age gap. And it was because they were the least racist. They were the ones who looked beyond someone's skin color and thought, okay, he's a nice guy, I can hang out with him. He takes me places. And what they didn't realize was these young men were really just grooming them before they introduced them to their uncles, their brothers, who were much older. Yeah. Do you understand when I talk about that family link? So the younger ones were sent out to go and develop relationships with children that they knew was not a boyfriend relation. They were grooming to then pass on to the elders in their communities.
Wow. This is absolutely disgusting. Oh my God.
And those girls and their families were the least racist, because they're happy to have those interactions with people like that, thinking, oh, no, we're not racist. We're okay. She's 14, he's 17. We can have a conversation.
I'm glad you're talking about racism, because I would argue that these men are racist.
Or these men are worse than racist. So there are factors as to how they legitimize what they did. And race is most definitely a factor, as well as is religious prejudice. There are two parallel factors and overlapping factors.
Yes.
The racial factor is that there is a huge challenge in our Pakistani communities, our Bangladeshi communities, our Muslim communities, in the way in which they perceive white communities, and the way in which they look down on them and hold them in contempt and see them as inferior. It's racism. It's just outright racism.
Is that really what that's how they look at them?
And I'll quantify it.
So that just goes to show racism is every people is able to be racist. This idea that only white people are racist is ridiculous.
It's absolute nonsense. And I'll quantify it for you with clear evidence. When you look at the testimonies of the survivors across the board, they will share with you how they were treated like dirt and told that they were white, they really derogatory terms around their ethnicity, and that they deserved it because their culture was inferior.
Wow.
And then, of course, the men who were caught and testified in court also made clear, horrific conclusions as to why they did what they did to these children, who they didn't see as children, and we'll talk about that in a little while. And it was because they were white, they were seen as less than that. They were asking for it. The culture meant that they were not of pure blood, of pure, and they deserved it. And it's consistent. And someone who spent a part of his life working in race relations like I did, these are textbook. In any other setting, these would be textbook racially aggravated crimes or racially motivated crimes. Yet in this instance, when the demographic group is one predominantly Pakistani and the victims are predominantly white working class, even when the police went to the point of having to arrest these men and the CPS went to the point of having to charge these men, the racial aggravating factor was never included.
Well, that's ridiculous. Because let's do a little thought experiment, okay? Let's just say it's a bunch of white guys, all right? Expat in Pakistan getting together and targeting young Pakistani girls, abusing them and raping them and calling you dirty Paki, you dirty Paki girl. Now, do you think that doesn't sound like racially targeted?
Of course.
All right, forget if it was even in Pakistan. Imagine it's here. Imagine it's in this country. You've got gangs of white men singling out Pakistani girls, abusing them, grooming them, just Pakistani girls. And
gang raping them.
Gang raping them, and then saying, you dirty Paki whore.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me that's not racially motivated?
Exactly where this all unravels. You know, in many other places it unravels. This is just another place where it does, because these are racially motivated crimes. I came out of a council meeting in my hometown on Monday evening. I went to a council meeting and we've been fighting in the council for 6 years, which is why we ended up with Jess Phillips in January, where we released information where she refused a public inquiry. You know, so the Safeguarding Minister for Children refused a public inquiry into safeguarding children. And,
wow.
And we got there through 6 years of campaigning, political campaigning. And I came out this council meeting and one of the councillors stood up and said, and we're meant to be having an inquiry that they're allowing the council to lead, which they shouldn't do. It should be independent, you know, and all of that. But she got up and said, to her credit, an elderly white woman, probably in her 80s, is Pam Byrne, the councillor. There's no malice in her. She probably goes and does more those sort of Macmillan coffee mornings and stuff. She's that sort of an individual. And she stood up and made reference to Pakistani heritage rape gangs. The leader of the council is a Pakistani, got up outraged. The mayor, deputy mayor who was chairing the meeting, was a white man, a Labour Party white man, got outraged. And they were shouting and screaming as to how dare she use the word Pakistani.
Well,
these are racially motivated crimes. We accept that. There's a demographic characteristic, and this is where, when we go back to the beginning of the conversation you and I had, we said this issue exists across the board. And I agree, this issue exists across the board, whether it's in the Catholic Church, whether it's inside the family. But in all of those other situations, we now accept it takes place, and we are willing to talk about it. And if you can't talk about it, you can't deal with it.
Exactly.
On this issue, we're still not willing to talk about it.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yes.
So can I just quickly say, I'm sorry, the list. So there's also Telford Grooming Gang. Never heard of this. 1980s, dude. 1980s is a long time ago. To the 2010s. Reports suggest that up to 1,000 girls were sexually exploited over decades in Telford. I don't even know where Telford is. Shropshire. It sounds like a quiet country kind of place.
No, there's a Pakistani demographic there as well. And the not interesting, but an interesting outcome of the Telford inquiry, which took place very recently, judge-led, they had to force it, judge-led. Never been a public inquiry, by the way, because a public inquiry has the power to compel witnesses and the power to go after evidence. All these other inquiries don't. So it's up to those being investigated to give you the evidence you need to look into them. And it's up to those being investigated to volunteer whether or not you can question them. Do you see how your hands are tied behind your back before you even started?
Yeah.
But the Telford inquiry is that the leader of the council at the time, who was involved in the cover-up, is now the MP.
What?
Rewarded.
I was just going to say.
Rewarded.
Dude, I was going to just say, the way it works in this country is you get promoted upwards for incompetence and negligence and criminality and everything. Like the corruption. You always get promoted upwards.
There was a councillor in my town, and she was the third council leader we took out at the ballot box. Her name is Amanda Chadderton. I've met her once. I have no issue with the woman personally. I have no issue with any of these people personally. And she was involved in helping prevent a vote going through in my town that would ask the government to intervene. And they blocked this vote 6 times.
The government did?
No, the local council. So the local council has got to officially write to the government for help. We've got a grooming gang problem in our town. We need the government to come in and investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. The local council 6 times over 5 years blocked that vote. And every time they blocked it, we campaigned, went on the streets, and we removed politicians at the ballot box.
Was there a particular party involved?
Labour Party.
Labour Party.
Labour Party, 100%.
I've heard that this is a problem.
Yes, 100% a problem. But she stood up in the council chamber and said, exact words more or less was, you can't say it destroyed their lives. It's been being gang raped. You can't say it destroyed their lives.
Are you joking?
Outraged. You're outraged. I'm outraged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Campaigned, had her removed from a Labour Party stronghold. We supported an independent candidate. We went and campaigned. She lost her seat. Because that's how you make politicians pay. You take them out of the ballot box because they're shameless. As I found out, the longer I spent in this space, they're shameless. Do you know what happened to her?
No.
The Home Secretary now, Yvette Cooper, gave her job as a campaign manager. So the Labour Party took care of the woman who stood up in the council chamber and said, you can't say it destroyed lives. The town is outraged, vote her out, and then the Labour Party hire her in as the campaign manager for the now Home Secretary. It's inexplainable.
Well, yes and no, actually, if you know how the corruption works. So back to the list. Newcastle, sexual exploitation ring 2014 to 2017. I was speaking to one of my supporters today, Fiona. Shout out to Fiona. She goes, Ahmed, I saw it with my own eyes. I'd be sitting in a cafe and these young Pakistani boys would be going up to these young white girls. And I could see they were giving them alcohol, they were giving them drugs. Again, was it the same demographic?
Yes. Patterns the same. You groom them by younger girls. And you were 14 once. I was 14 once, or 13 or 12. Some of these were younger. Some of these were like 10 where it gets, nasty. And when you were that age, you always thought you were older than you really were. And you knew more about the world than you really did.
Not really. Dude, I was still watching cartoons.
Well, you still watching cartoons?
I was a very innocent kid.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
But many of these girls weren't. And you look at it and they're just being exploited, but in plain sight.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what my friend was saying.
Yeah,
she was obvious.
Sight. It's not even hidden. In plain sight, this happens. And then they would groom them, as in develop as though there's some sort of boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or teenagers hanging out together. And then these boys pass them on to their uncles.
Yeah. So it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. I mean, there's another list actually. Operation Notarized 2014, a nationwide operation by the National Crime Agency targeting online paedophile networks. Over 700 suspects were arrested for accessing or distributing indecent imaging. But that wasn't a specific demographic group targeting. So yes, it goes back to confirming. There's horrible, evil people in every aspect.
And we're prepared to go after some groups.
Exactly.
But not others.
Exactly.
So why are the others untouchable? That's the question I want to explore. Why are the others untouchable?
So there's one more list, right? The other list is the Oxford Grooming Gang.
Oh, yes.
2013. Girls as young as 11 sexually abused, groomed, raped, and trafficked. Is it the same demographic?
Same demographic.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Are you kidding me?
And then I get accused, why don't you go after the white ones? And I said, because the white ones are already being got after.
Yeah.
And these are different. So this is another layer I want your listeners to understand. These aren't paedophile rings. Because these men don't see these children as children. Because where they come from, a 10-year-old is acceptable. Iraq has just changed its laws today or yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, so you can marry a 9-year-old.
Shut up.
Right? So these men come from a cultural environment or a religious context where this is considered allowed.
Yeah, that's wrong. Dude, that's wrong. Yeah, you're right. 4 hours ago. The end of women and children's right outrage.
Yeah.
allows child marriage. Oh, for fucking hell.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you see? And I'm sorry, and
Dude,
I
can I
say
just
to
say
you as a
something?
Muslim, I say to you as a Muslim, and I say to you,
So you're Muslim?
yeah, absolutely. And
So I was just about to tell you, I'm not Muslim.
I know you're not. You know,
Dude, can I just say something? I gave that up
I know you.
a while ago, 15, 18 years ago. I'll tell you why, because I read the stuff and a lot of it I just didn't like. Even as a kid, it didn't sit right with me. I don't, like, apparently the Prophet married some very young people.
So
Like, I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
and this is what I say to you, and I say to everyone. I'm very clear in this. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And raping children, marrying 8, 9-year-olds or 10-year-olds, I don't care what context you want to present it to me. I'm not going to be on board with that. And these guys legitimize it from the practices that perhaps were the norm 1,500 years ago. I'm sorry.
I know, but
we're not there.
Okay, right.
And it needs to change. And we need to be able to question our own beliefs and find some sense through that.
Roger.
And say this is wrong. This is wrong.
100%. Listen, don't take offense. Right?
I would never take offense.
But I thought your name Raja, that you were Indian and Hindu.
No. I'm a Bangladeshi Muslim, and I make sure.
Sorry,
No, it makes no difference.
But I'll explain that. Can I explain why? Yeah. I thought that because I was going to ask you. I was going to say, hey, Raja, if you're Indian Hindu, is it just the case that you're having a go at these Muslims?
No.
I'm just telling you. I'm being honest with you. I was going to say, because there's a bit of Muslims and Hindus. Is that where you're coming from? Is this potentially? I can't even ask you that question.
This is my community.
You're a Bengali Muslim.
This is my community who are involved in this, and I believe it is for people from my community to be part of the solution.
100%.
And we can't shy away from this. There is those men. There is a demographic within those men who see this as purely racially motivated crimes. The white dirt, they deserve it.
Yes,
and there are some who also use religious practices and doctrine to legitimize the abuse. Hence the Iraq law change.
Exactly. Cultural, we're better than you. You deserve this. You're not as good as us.
Yeah.
2, the religion aspect. I think there's a bit more as well.
Go on.
There's another cultural thing. So listen, dude, you might get this, right? So I'm in Glasgow, right? In this Ahmadiyya community. It's not very big. It's tiny, right? I mean, in the 1980s, it was like 5 or 6 families and all spread out in the city. And we didn't have a mosque or anything. And my parents wanted me to learn the Quran, and my brother and my sister too. So they sent us to a local Pakistani mosque, not Ahmadi. And I remember them saying, don't tell them you're an Ahmadi. Like, if people don't realize, Ahmadis actually get persecuted in Pakistan. They get shot and killed.
You're worse than a Christian. You're worse than a Jew because you claim to be Muslim when you're not. It's worse.
Yeah. So it was really bad. As a kid, we were like, don't tell anybody you're Muslim. So we went to this, this madrasa to learn how to read the Quran. And the first day, we were like, wow, they get stick in.
Yeah.
Because whoa, what the hell? And put it into context. I was about 7 or 8. And the second time we went, the imam, mullah, whatever, big beard guy, he goes, oh, you children are special. You're so beautiful. You're so clever. I'm going to take you upstairs to my room. You're going to get special treatment.
Oh, yeah.
So we got taken upstairs, Raja. And he was touching me inappropriately.
Yes.
And that was, and then when we went home, I told my mum and dad that they put us in a separate room. He's really inappropriate. Keeps telling us all the same. He was touching me, and we never went back. Now, what I'm trying to say is, if I didn't say anything, my sister didn't say anything, God knows where that would have led.
Well, you know where it would have left you. You know what would have happened,
right?
And there are many cases of this.
Right now, when I was 5, roll back a few years, I was going home from school. 5, 6. Believe it or not, we could walk to school and not get with our parents. It was just literally around the corner, one block. In those days, you just used to walk to school.
I walked to school from the age of 4.
This is what I'm trying to say. So my brother and my sister, and we're walking back home, and this guy comes up and goes, do you want to see my puppies? And we're like, no, going home. Literally, it's not very far from my house, just around the corner, and this guy's stopping us in the street. He goes, no, come and see my puppies. They're so cute. You like them puppies. And he picks me up. And I start kicking and screaming. And my sister, oh God, I'll never forget, she kicked and let go of my brother. And he dropped me and he ran away. And he was a white guy.
Yeah.
And I remember him, black hair. And just it was terrifying. And another time I went to Pakistan. Now I'm about 8 or 9. Okay, so I'm 8 or 9. I'm in Pakistan. We're visiting relatives. You know what it's like? You visit relatives. You don't know who the fuck.
Yeah, it's your uncle. You just got to sit there.
Yeah. Anyway, they had a huge house, a massive garden, like acreage, and we had a ball. We're kicking the ball around, blah blah, and the ball went in a shed. And I was the one to go get the ball because next to me, I went in the shed, and there was a guy in there. And when I went in, he picks me up and he starts fondling me and touching me. And I punched at him and, squirmed and tried to get off me. And I was actually so embarrassed and felt so dirty.
Yeah. As though it was your fault, yeah.
I didn't say anything. I didn't fucking say anything to anybody. And, because honestly, I felt dirty. I felt it was me. It's just something I was ashamed to tell my mum and dad. Now, again, dude, that could have, I should not be exposed to this shit. And that's why I'm petrified when it comes to my kids. Them going for sleepovers or walking into the school. They never fucking walk to the school on their own. Why is it? It should not be like this.
And what sort of society have we become? What sort of society have we become? Because we've not dealt with this issue because it's hidden away. We don't talk about it. I mean, how long did it take for the Catholic Church to get to the place where it acknowledges it has got a fault? How long did it take the Church of England? How long did it take all those people who worked in the children's homes? This is repeatedly covered up. And if you want to take a more a longer sort of, you're going to look from the outside more at this, well, then this is just another face of this challenge, and we've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in this context, it isn't just about pedophiles wanting to abuse young children. It is about men who believe, one, that they're not children because their religion or their culture says they're not, and two, because it doesn't matter what you do to these children because they are dirt.
So I've realized that there's a huge cultural problem. I'm not gonna lie. In the Pakistani community, Afghan community, Arab community. So I'll explain what I've learned over the years, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. So we were watching The Kite Runner once when my dad was still alive.
Yeah, the book, it left me traumatized. I read the book first, that scene. Yeah.
And my dad was a great man. My dad was crying, and I was like, "Dad, what's wrong?" And he went, My friend got abused, sodomized by some men, other boys. And I was like, I'm so sorry, Daddy. And he was like, yeah, it's a big problem. And, in Pakistan, a lot of the truckers.
Yes, I've seen the documentary.
They go up and down from Karachi to Lahore, Islamabad, whatever, Quetta. And they have little cabin boys to clean the car and truck and look after it. But they sodomize these kids.
Yes.
And they are married. They have children of their own. They go home and they go to the mosque and they got their prayer beads and they got the big beards. And then they are literally raping these boys. And what they say, and their faith, they say, well, you know what? In Islam, men aren't allowed to have sex with men, but these are boys, so it's okay. And I don't know if you know about Bacha Bazi.
Yeah.
So Bacha Bazi is in Afghanistan and in parts of Pakistan as well, where they kidnap young boys. Or they go to people who haven't got money and say, well, we'll feed your kids. And they get these boys and they dress them up as girls, put makeup on them, get them to dance.
I've seen it.
And then have sex with them.
I've seen it.
And rape them.
I've seen it. And that is a cultural problem.
You've seen it.
I've seen it. I've seen the videos. I've seen the documentaries. I've spoken to people.
It's real.
It's real.
And it's not. And
it's out in the open. This isn't hidden.
I was going to say, I don't want people to think, oh my God, but this is much. Maybe I'm just getting a bit, fringe. Maybe this is a bit. No, this is a societal, cultural problem where thousands of children like this are being abused. Thousands.
I saw a documentary that some Americans produced where at one point they interviewed Imran Khan, the former, Prime Minister of Pakistan, who was horrified about what was going on. And I remember looking at him and the interview, and he was like saying, I didn't realize it was a bigger problem as you've made it out. Nonsense. It is out in the open and they all know about it.
Yeah, I know.
They all know about it and they all accept it. So there's that underclass, because that's what those boys are, they're from the poorest backgrounds, the street children, the ones who no one cares about, or no one will care enough about to do anything about
And
it.
then they end up with trauma, either becoming drug addicts. There's a massive opium problem in Pakistan and Afghanistan, or they end up abusing other kids.
And translate to the United Kingdom, and the demographic of those boys are the white working class girls.
Yes. Bingo.
Yes.
Bingo. There you go. And the other thing as well, in Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, what I've heard is the first sexual encounter any guy has is with another guy, because you're so strict. So what I was coming to was the cultural repression. That was the angle that I was coming at. That with this very strict religion, where you're not allowed to have sex, or not allowed to have girlfriends, not allowed to have, it's all, you marry your cousin who probably looks like you. And by the way, you might be laughing at this. I kid you not. I once had this guy say to me, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. He's Pakistani. He's a surgeon. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm really stressed out. I went, what do you mean? He goes, my family are pressuring me to marry my cousin.
And he's a surgeon.
He's a surgeon. Oh, dude, I know so many like this. And he goes, I don't want to marry her. And I went, I'm really sorry. But my dad is saying, if I don't marry, he's gonna have a heart attack and he's gonna die. And I went, oh shit. And I went, what does she look like? I mean, she's like, she's a good looker. I mean, maybe it's worth marrying your cousin. I'm just joking. And he showed me a picture, and I was like, yeah, that's really funny. No, show me a picture of her. That's just a picture of you. And he went, no, that's her. I went, oh my gosh, she looks like your fucking twin. Like, you cannot marry this person. Like, this is disgusting. Anyway, what happened was his dad did have a heart attack, and then said, if you don't marry her, you're going to kill me. Yeah. I had a heart attack because of you. So he ended up marrying her.
See?
There's a problem.
And then when you lower the profession, so if you take it to takeaway workers or taxi taxi drivers who are all marrying their cousins that way, there is, and again, it's a taboo subject, complete sexual unfulfillment in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why do you think there's 1,000 or 100 guys queuing up outside? Yeah. A flat or a takeaway, wanting to wait for their turn for £50 a time with a young white girl.
This is disgusting.
Absolutely.
Listen, I was talking to a mate of mine, and I was saying, what I think I know what the punishment should be. I don't think death is enough. I'm sorry.
I'd castrate him.
Thank you.
Castration.
Thank you. So I was going to say I would castrate them, and I would actually then fry it and feed it with...
You've given it more thought than I have.
I've really been thinking about it. Because, look, everything I do today is because of my kids. I sacrificed I sacrificed my career in surgery because of my kids, right? I'm doing everything for them to build a better future for them. I think if this was my kids, I would castrate them, I would fry the fuck out of it, and I'd feed it to them, I'd stuff it down their throats, right? And then my friend said, no, you know what's even better than that? I went, what? He went, you put rapist grooming gang tattooed on their forehead. And then wherever they go in society, people will know who they are. Because he said, right now, the murderers and the rapists, they're invisible. They go to jail at our taxpayers' expense for 5 years, 10 years, 8 years, 6 months, whatever the bullshit number it is. Then they're back out and no one knows what they did. Just imagine they all walked with that tattoo, that shame on them, and how society would treat them. That's what I think would be a fitting punishment.
I look at this. I look at the entire punishment regime. Most recently, I think it was at Huddersfield. I think there was a case where the grooming gang members were all put in prison, did horrific things to these two children. And the police released a press release where they added up all the sentences together to make it look like the punishment was great, like 50, sentenced to 50 years or 75 years, whatever the headline was. And you work it out, they got like 3 years. They'd be out in 18 months. For gang raping children. So,
oh my God, are you kidding me? 3 years?
No, have a look. You'll see. Type it in Google. You'll see. I think it was Huddersfield or Kirklees grooming gang sentences, West Yorkshire. It was only this week it came out.
And you know what the thing is? It might be. Here we go. We've got Huddersfield. So 20 guilty. Oh, they fucking look like pieces of shit.
Yeah,
don't they? They fucking, I'm sorry for swearing, guys. I'm sorry, I'm just getting a bit upset. Here we are. Look at these absolute losers. There's a Sikh guy in one of them, I think.
Yeah, well, they the reasoning behind a lot of that is these are organized crime groups as well. And they're involved in the heroin business. Yeah.
Look at these ugly mother frackers, assholes. And so, what was that actual sentence?
Oh, some of them got next to nothing.
20 guilty of campaign of rape and abuse, 120 offences against 15 girls between 2004 and 2011, used and abused at will. Oh, well, at least one had jailed for life with a minimum of 18 years. Amir Singh Daliwal. Oh, mainly of Pakistani heritage. So it's not just Pakistani. There's other. Oh man, there's a problem here. This is terrible because the problem is they get 2-3 years sentence. I can tell you right now, those kids are scarred for life. They are traumatized for life.
Their life,
and not just them. Then their children, their mum and dads, their uncles and aunts. This is horrendous.
And there are stories of fathers going out to save their children and pick them up from these places where they were being gang raped, and the father's being punished by the police.
What the hell?
Yeah, repeated stories of these. This isn't make-believe. Because they got violent, I would imagine, because the daughter was being pinned down with a group of men wanting to gang rape them. What would you do, my brother?
Well,
yeah.
I'd fucking kill them.
Yeah.
No, I would fucking kill them.
I spoke to a...
Oh, you know what? This is telling me... I'm sorry. This is what I meant. I knew this was going to be a really difficult conversation. I now don't want to get emotional, but there's something seriously wrong with our society where we can't just...
And this is where I go back to where you and I crossed paths, I think, was the outrage for me. The line in the sand for me was 2 weeks ago in Parliament, there was a vote for a national inquiry into the cover-up of the gang rape of our nation's children. Conservative figures are 100,000 by these predominantly Pakistani heritage rape gangs. Of course, there are others involved, but predominantly Pakistani heritage. To understand why it took place, to draw out the testimony of those survivors, to put in place support packages that they need, including compensation, because we failed them, the state failed them, and to hold to account those who were responsible for the crimes, and also those involved in failing those children, and the politicians and police officers involved in the cover-up, because they all should be held to account, because that's what we do in a functioning democracy. Keir Starmer led his Labour Party government, and 333 of them, I think, all voted against a public inquiry.
Why the frack would you do that?
Because it's the votes. These men from these communities are loyal Labour Party voters. The leaders in these communities collect the postal votes, and so many Labour Party MPs in Parliament to this day are dependent on the bloc Muslim vote, and without the bloc Muslim vote, they are out.
Can I ask you something? How many? Oh, this is disgusting. How many Pakistanis are there in the UK right now?
So this is where it gets. It's a 4%, 3%, 4%, but this is where it gets.
Because look, can I just say something, Raja? Look, I met a lot of Pakistanis, Ahmadi Pakistanis, right? Like, I don't know any fucking rapists, child grooming gang people.
Okay, so let me let me quantify this way.
But there seems to be a big problem here.
There is, and if you want,
and I'm just saying this as in like, because I didn't deal with the other Pakistani community, like because I was in an Ahmadi community, I was very sheltered. I don't know what other Pakistanis are like and what they're doing.
So I have Pakistani friends who describe themselves as Pakistani, who, when I meet with them, or when I first met with them, they one of the first things they share with me is, don't compare me to the others. And the others is, there's a subsect in England, particularly around the north, who are from Mirpur. Mirpur, yeah.
Yeah, the Mirpur Valley.
Yeah, so
just in case people don't know.
Hi, me again. You're listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or on his Substack, or simply buy him a coffee with one of the donation links which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
There's a valley in Pakistan called Mirpur where there was a dam made. So everything was flooded. All the lands were flooded. and there was like 70, 80,000 people, 100,000 people who were displaced. And the British government said, we need workers, cotton workers or whatever, manufacturers, come over here. So they all came running. I'm not Mirpur, by the way. And they're generally uneducated class, very rural, poor economic, not culturally advanced. They're not like the pilots and the architects and the philosophers and the artists. They're basically villagers who were brought over.
Well, Kemi Badenoch,
am I right? Is this fair?
Kenny Badenoch, the leader of the opposition, conservative leader, gave a speech recently where she called it out, and she made reference to these people as peasants. So when she used the word peasants,
so can I just say
that's who
something?
she was describing.
So Pakistanis actually talk about Mirpuris
In a different way.
in a derogatory way. No, derogatory way.
Yes.
They're like, oh my God, they're Mirpuris.
Yeah.
Like they're the backward lot. They're like the inbred lot. They're like, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
This is not me saying it. I'm just telling the wider audience that within Pakistan is a huge country, 180 million. We're talking about a subset in Punjab and a place called Mirpur, where they're very simple, not culturally educated or anything like that. And they came over here, and that group of people tended to be like looked down upon by other Pakistanis. So, for example, in America,
I'll show you
just very quickly, like in America, there's a lot of Pakistanis out there, but all the Pakistanis that are in America tend to be doctors and engineers and architects. They're not Mirpuri. They're not like that.
There's a Pakistani lad I know, very successful businessman in Manchester, sat down with me once. He was having breakfast. He was nursing his hangover, so we say. And he bumped into me, hadn't seen me for a while. And we were chatting, we were talking about the workers. He says, Raja, you need to understand, the place where they come from, they'd be having sex with their goats. So that's how derogatory the wider Pakistani community consider this subsect.
I've heard that too. It might actually even be true. No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, my mum's told me some stories, and like she said, "Oh my God, these, like I'm just telling you, we don't know." So look, there is a goddamn problem with,
and the Mirpuri community in this country, is very insular in itself because they all marry their cousins.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you can see it's not evolved culturally. It's not evolved. It's not adapted. It's not integrated.
It's not integrated at all. This is, they have just brought the village, this backward village, to the UK, and they're not integrating, and then this is the shit show that we've got now.
And if you look back at the valley itself and the flooding, the Pakistani government wanted rid of these people as well.
Wow.
They didn't want them. They wanted rid of them as well. They were happy to get rid of them.
So people need to understand in power, in government, that you know what? They can't protect what's going on and pretend there's nothing happening. So what I want to ask you is, what about the so-called leaders, right? So the leaders tend to come from the mosque. And you got the mullah class, and you got the elders, the church elders. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are they doing about this problem? Are they going out?
Denial. 100% denial. And anyone who says anything about it is racist. And if people like me from inside the community speak out, then we need to be ostracized.
Yeah, of course. You're joking, right?
No. 100%.
Surely they know, though.
Shame.
But
Roger,
I know they know. Come on.
Not only do they know, they actively look the other way and helped to cover it up. In the same way the Catholic Church leaders knew.
Yeah, like
the Pope knew. Yeah?
Like the Archbishop, the Church of England.
Yeah,
the Archbishop just...
Yeah. Because of the shame. What shame will it bring? Hold on. There are little children being gang raped and you're worried about shame?
Yeah, the word in Urdu Hindi is sharam.
Sharam, yeah.
Sharam. Yeah. Losing face. We can't lose face.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know what the other problem that I really have with the communities in Pakistan, India,
it's the same.
Afghanistan, whatever, it's all the same. In Pakistan, they passed a law recently where if someone says they've been raped, that woman needs to provide 4 male witnesses. Now, just think about it. You've been dragged, abducted, raped in a back alley, and you're meant to magically provide 4 male witnesses. And if you don't have those 4 male witnesses, guess what? They accuse you of being an adulterer. And then you get punished
stoned.
And you get stoned. And so the rape and everything is like really underreported. And it's a real taboo. Like it's a shame. You brought shame on our family. Not the fact that, oh my God, we need to seek justice and get the guy that raped you. No, you brought shame on our family.
And this is a cultural
and dishonor,
yeah.
dishonor.
And the legal system that facilitates that and the cultural conditions that then flourish as a consequence, what makes anyone think that they won't be bringing the practices from there to here?
Yeah, exactly.
And here we allow it and we facilitate it because, well, for a number of reasons. And another one of those reasons is because we need to maintain, or there's a demographic within our country, the political elite need to maintain this persona that, you know, everything's working. The multicultural model as we know it is successful and thriving. And if you come to towns like mine, you know that's not the case.
Yeah, well, if it's, I'm not from there. It sounds like, you've got your ghettos and you've got your little areas, and then no one's integrating.
And it's facilitated, it's encouraged. That separation is facilitated, it's encouraged, and it works because it's a colonial model of operating, where when you engage with these communities, you engage via community leaders. Those community leaders, of course, are from the big crime families within there. There's a big heroin dealing network in the Pakistani community.
Dude, I don't know anything about that shit.
Massive drug trade.
Look at all these wonderful good Muslims. This is the hypocrisy that I've always loved, like from religious people, right? They talk about how religious and wonderful they are, and actually they get up to the biggest shit.
So this is the one of the
what
things
the frack.
One of the things I laugh at is they talk about, we can't touch alcohol, we don't go and visit places where they serve alcohol, mate. Your cousin, who I know, made all his money from peddling heroin. Who are you to start suddenly giving me religious, doctrine? Idiots. All of the mosques, all of the mosques that I grew up with were funded by guys who worked in restaurants, sold alcohol, and now you suddenly think alcohol. Where do you think the money for your mosque came from? It came from decent men who worked night and day, working in restaurants, serving, and that there's been a generational transformation in our communities, as well as the stuff we've talked about with the second generation, third generation. Those who were born here have the least connection to here.
Are you kidding?
No, those who are born here have the least loyalty to here, the least connection to here, and are the quickest to see this nation as their enemy. If you speak to their parents or their grandparents, you'll see they're like me. They're like you, more completely tolerant, at ease, recognizing that you've got to live and let live.
Dude, I'm not Pakistani. I'm British. Yeah. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. My loyalty.
You think if I go to Pakistan, I'm going to fit in?
My loyalty.
Dude, you must be joking.
My loyalty is to the land of my birth and to those who raised me and the communities where I flourished. And that's why
Amen.
And that's why I'm fighting. That's why I'm fighting the way I am.
So do you know what else happened? So I can't tell about these other communities, right? But I left, I told you this Ahmadiyya community. It's also known as the Qadiani community. But, I've got family who's still in it. I can't help that. But guess what? The Qadiani sect, I'm sharing the screen. The Qadiani sect in Britain is engulfed in a sex scandal in which the alleged victim of rape has claimed that the spiritual leader of the sect, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, told her to not involve the police. So he's not even just other Pakistani community. I'm not having a go at other ones. Some people might say, well, that guy's ex.
No, it's inside your own community. Inside your own community.
Like, she filed a complaint to the London Metropolitan Police, which was confirmed that an investigation is ongoing on July the 22nd, 2021, about historic sexual assault reported to have taken place between 1987 and 2012. Dude, that's a long time.
25 is about 25 years.
Nida has accused the spiritual leader's brother-in-law, Mahmood Shah, and Dr. Mirza Mubashir Ahmed, an orthopedic doctor in Amdi Hospital in Rabwa, and a relative of the leader, of raping her repeatedly during her 4-year stay in Rabwa. She has also accused her own father of raping her repeatedly. This is the news magazine of the Islamic Movement, Crescent International, I'm reading out of. If these allegations are true, I mean, that's horrific.
Let me give you an
example. It's covering up constantly. Do you see what I mean?
Let me give you an example of a Bangladeshi girl I know. The story, and I've validated it, it's confirmed. These guys, these taxi drivers, wooed her. She was 14, 15, thought she was Western, and they encouraged her. And they raped her, and she got pregnant. A network of taxi drivers raped her, and instead of her being allowed to go to the police because she came from a poor family and the shame, they created what's called a bisar. A bisar is basically a community judgment. Well, the elders are called in.
Bizarre.
Bisar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's what the elders are called in, to deal with it and cover it up. And
so their own kind of justice.
Yeah. So
is this part of Sharia law?
Yeah. Well, the underpinnings in it is, they use their interpretations of Sharia law. But the story, just to give you how wrong this is, they lined these men up and they each testified. They agreed. And then it came to, well, whose is the baby? Because she's pregnant.
Oh, shit.
So one of them, in his defense, it wasn't that he raped her. When I took my turn, I used a condom.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so the rape wasn't the issue for them. It was the fact that, when he took... And they, to cover it all up, they found her a husband, who'd marry her and then bring up the child as though it was his, even though she was young. Remember, the police aren't involved in this because if the father went to the police, then be ostracized from the community. And the girl, forget what happened to the girl. And as compensation, they bought him a Ford Sierra.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Confirmed.
And that girl's life is now ruined. Dude, I'm so desperately sad. And I'm really sad and angry. And I can only imagine the people listening. And the thing is, look, I'm conflicted because I'm always talking about how I feel certain people and organization are trying to create a clash of civilizations. They're trying to foment division between us.
I see that. I feel that.
Right? They want us all fighting each other, Christians against Muslims, white against black.
And that's one of the reasons why I am very clear I'm a Muslim, because the solution has got to come from that community. And the Muslims who can't stand me want me out of the way.
Have you been threatened? Seriously, have you
death threats, repeated death threats. The way in which they do it is because these are Islamists, these are jihadists. I'm very clear on who they are, protected by the police.
Jihadists going around raping young girls.
So
they don't even fucking see anything.
Because
these are animals.
Because they come up with a warped interpretation of what was allowed during what war and what the filthy. These are barbaric crimes, and what these men are is, oh mate, if you saw some of it, and you then see that they're at the mosque on a Friday.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine the bastards being at the mosque, praying to their God, thinking that they're good people while they're doing. How these people sleep at night? I have no. This is what I meant.
Yeah.
Castrate them.
The ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang, a man called Shabir Ahmed. He liked the girls to call him Daddy.
No.
He was convicted. In the end, he was convicted. 9 times we forced out of the police. 9 times they let him go. What? Because of his political connections. 9 times they let him go. And do you know...
So what was his name?
Shabir Ahmed. Shabir.
Oh, he's fucking got my name, bastard. Right, okay. Where is he? Oh, I did.
You found him?
No, not yet. Shabir Ahmed, yeah?
Ahmed, Rochdale.
ED. It's just a joke. Oh, here we go. Right, yeah, I found him.
Yeah, so the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang, I think he got convicted for 33 rapes in the end.
What?
He worked for the council for 20 years, 18 years. He worked for the council where they had access to children. Not only did he work for the council where he had access to children, he was also a prominent member of the Labour Party, a key figure in the community who supplied the votes.
And he raped and sexually abused one girl for more than a decade.
So this is the bit you need to read between the lines. You picked up on that. He was convicted the first time because the victims wouldn't go away and kept going back to the police and kept going back to the police. Hidden in the small print, or it's not even there in the small print now, is that the ones he raped for more than a decade were his daughters.
What?
Yeah, so he had 2 daughters, and the older daughter kept going back to the police, and they kept covering up for this man. And she was worried about what would happen with her younger sisters, from what I can work out. He has a son, and from the people I spoke to, he abused his son as well. His wife, when it all came out in the open, because I'm not having it that she didn't know what was happening to her children. His wife went and committed suicide in the local park, in the boating lake in the park.
No way.
From what I can work out, the two girls are now in protective custody because what would happen in the community and how would they be treated?
Oh my God.
Because they grasped on their father. And the first time he got arrested properly wasn't because he was gang raping white girls. It was because his daughters wouldn't go away. And I tell that story everywhere because I think it's an important story to tell. These are bastards.
Proper bastards.
Yeah.
And you know what? Okay, so there's an element of these guys are fucking evil. They're demented, not good people. They're not representative of all Pakistanis or all Muslims, but there is a problem within a subset.
100%.
Cultural, religious, whatever you want, socio-economic, whatever you call it. There is a
I don't know
disease, a cancer.
There's a cancer. I don't know.
But listen. But what next thing I want to say was, equally, there is a problem with our police, our judiciary system, our politicians, and our journalists for not doing something about this and letting this fucking fly.
And they let it fly because it suits the multicultural narrative on one hand, and two, because the men who are doing this either are powerful or are connected to powerful people in the community. And so what? Some white girl gets gang raped. So what? It's a price worth paying.
And you know what? Guess what? Then you've got your right-wing figures who are going to take this and they're going to run with it. You're going to get your Zionists and they're going to go run with it. See, Muslims are barbaric. They're evil. They deserve to be bombed in their countries. We should expel them all. All the blah, 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 blah. Everybody's a winner except the poor young girls.
Yes.
It's fucking awful, mate.
Dreadful. Yeah.
What's the solution? Seriously, I mean, what is the solution?
People have got to go to prison. We believe in punishment.
Tattoos.
Right. Tattoos.
Castrations.
Yeah. But we believe in punishment.
I'm being serious.
Yeah,
Dude,
I know you are.
being serious.
But we agree that in a society such as ours, law and order means punishment. Those who are guilty of crimes are punished for their crimes.
And a fucking long time.
And we need to put in prison every one of those who not just committed the crimes. We need to track down every one of those bastards who are queuing up outside the takeaways.
Yes.
Right? Who are paying to rape these children, by the way.
Because reading it, I don't believe it's just 10 here, 9 there. No. That's bullshit.
No. Because every time they talk about trafficking these children, if you read the testimonies of these children, they will say they were at takeaways or hotels or flats where men were queued up outside. Right? I'm talking tens of thousands, brother, of men. Minimum.
Tens of thousands.
Minimum.
So hold on one second. Dude, I'm actually getting a headache right now. I mean this. Are you telling me tens of thousands of Pakistani men in this country are raping?
Pakistani, Bangladeshi are raping or have raped.
Raping or have raped? Yeah. You're saying tens of thousands?
My calculation, tens of thousands. And I'll quantify it. The conservative figures are 100,000 girls across the country. Trafficked. Yeah? So how many men do you think gang raped 100,000 of these girls? And I'll quantify it again. I spoke with a friend of mine, a Bangladeshi friend of mine, a taxi driver, decent man, family man, contacted me, Raja. I contacted the police. I found a girl in a bad way. I put her in my car. I took her back to the office. I got them to phone an ambulance. Decent guy. The police turned up wanting to arrest him. And the staff said, no, he's found this girl. Clearly something's happened to her. He's brought her here for safety. Yeah. And they took his statement. He chased it up a few weeks later. He chased it up a few weeks later. Concerned. He's a father with children of his own, no different to you and I. He chased it up, asking what had happened and what were they going to do. And the police officer, to words to this effect, if we started making one arrest, we wouldn't know where to stop.
Oh, shit. If we start making one arrest, we don't know where to stop. Well, fucking don't stop.
Yes.
Lock the whole lot of them up. What the fuck are you waiting for? Just lock them all up. I don't give a fuck.
Neither do I.
I don't give a fuck. If it's 90% of the Pakistani men, I mean, I'm sure it's not, but if it was, fuck it. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, what country you're ethnically from. If you've done this shit, castrate, eat your dick, and then have the tattoo on your head. I'm sorry, this is just ridiculous.
And that is the situation we found ourselves in. And people say, oh, it's political correctness. It's not political correctness. It is about power. And the political class have made a decision on what is more important to them. And what is more important to them is the vision of community relations, because there's no community relations that I come from would trade children for anything. So it's not my interpretation of that. I spoke with a retired detective chief inspector, a DCI, last week, sought me out, wanted to share with me a story about a grooming gang he was chasing in Bradford. He tracked them all the way down to Bradford, followed them. They were, children's homes. They were grooming children, taking them away. He erased it. He got called into a meeting with the senior people in the council where he was warned that he would be arrested. This is a senior detective chief inspector, retired. He was warned he would be arrested. And then when he left, he got a phone call from an even more senior police officer asking him what on earth he was doing. We've got a good thing going on here in Bradford.
What do you mean we've got a good thing?
Everything's okay. Why upset it?
So another angle I want to ask you about. So I've heard, like you've just told me about this heroin thing. So I was talking to a police officer. He's still active. He doesn't want his name mentioned or anything. He said he wants out of the police. He said everyone who is like, a certain superintendent level above is a Freemason. He said actual crime is never really dealt with, and there's arrangements between the Albanian gangs and Pakistani gangs or white gangs or whatever the gangs are, that the crime carries on. He goes, and there are bad people in this country, Ahmed. And the arrangement is that most people don't get affected by it, and who knows where the money goes, and they get a cut or whatever. Now, if you're telling me the Pakistanis are involved, some of these Pakistanis are involved with big heroin trade.
Heroin trade comes via Afghanistan to Pakistan and to the United Kingdom.
Like, how the fuck is it getting in the country? And is someone getting a cut of this? Are there dirty cops? I mean, what's going on? I'm just asking.
Well, my experience of the police, sadly, is that there are dirty cops. They have repeatedly arrested me.
You?
Yeah, repeatedly arrested me.
What the hell have they arrested you for?
Dawn raided my house repeatedly, and fundamentally, they arrested me to stop me campaigning on this issue. They dragged me through court after court. The CPS are involved because it would never have escalated without the CPS signing off.
Crown Prosecution Service. That's a central, national, centralized.
100% the Crown Prosecution Service are involved because my cases would never have progressed to court. And
So what were you charged with?
The first time I was arrested for a racially aggravated public order offence, which means I said some things that were considered to be racist.
Like what?
I had written an article. I had written an article where I raised concerns about how the Israel-Palestine conflict was being used to radicalize a new generation of Muslim young men and young women to turn against their country. The person who reported me was the leader of Oldham Council, a Pakistani woman called Arood Shah, because I'd objected to her speaking at a rally where children were chanting Hamas slogans and encouraging the attack of a Jewish-owned building where they were smashing the windows. And I said, what's going on here is the smashing of windows is more than just smashing windows. There's an undercurrent. There's a historical undercurrent around Kristallnacht. So they decided I was the racist. And when they interviewed me, this is where it gets comedy, because I'm a history graduate. One of the things is I'm a history graduate, and this dirty, filthy police officer who was part of a team of 8 police officers who dawn raided my house.
Dawn raided
my house. Says to me, well, how do you feel using the word Kristallnacht? It might offend a Jewish person. So I said, hold on. A Jewish building has had its window smashed by a gang of Muslim guys, yeah? And the window smashing repeatedly is symbolic. And I use the word Kristallnacht. Well, a Jew might be offended that you use the word Kristallnacht. I'm like, have you spoken to any Jewish people?
This is comedy. This is ridiculous.
Charged me. In 6 months, they had me under house arrest. Whilst they had me under house arrest, the police released a statement.
6 months house arrest?
Yeah, every night I had to spend inside my house. It gets worse. So I leave the police station, having not been charged, on bail. I leave the police station on bail. My friend picks me up. They've took my computer, my phone, every device I can use to, communicate with the world. My friend picks me up. He goes, it's worse. The police had released a statement to the local newspaper that wrote a headline stating that I'd been arrested as part of a child sex exploitation investigation. So I was somehow responsible for grooming or raping children. The local Islamists...
It's all about discrediting
the local
your
Islamists, and I call them Islamists because that's what they are. The local Islamists picked up on that, and all the community Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, published my photograph underneath it and my home address in case anyone wanted to come and pay me a visit. And when I contacted the police saying, look, please release a statement, at the very least, to say I've not been arrested for anything to do with abusing children, he said, oh no, you're now a risk. We're going to put you under house arrest. Wow. So they put a target on my head. And these Islamists, not satisfied with what they'd done, oh, by the way, is a gay Christian convert.
What?
Yes. Put with my address for 6 months longer. And at the time I had a 6-year-old daughter.
Oh my God,
I was barricading my door at night and sleeping with a knife next to me. And the police were complicit in this. And the police were complicit in this because they wanted me silenced because I was speaking out against the cover-up of the gang rape of children.
Oh my goodness.
And I say this to you because everything I talk about is evidence. I've got emails sent to the chief constable pleading for him to do something.
Dude, how do you manage to keep going?
Well, I had a daughter. That was it. I had a daughter. I look back, I had a daughter. At the time, my mum was terminally ill. These nutcases were quite happily sharing with my mum, us making sure she was aware, oh, your son's been messing around with children, your son's been doing this. They tried to destroy me. They tried to destroy my family. Before my name was cleared, and it was cleared, it took me 3 years of going to courtroom after courtroom after courtroom, saying not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, every one of them. Before my name was cleared, my mother died in tears, worried what would happen.
Oh, dear, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And the police are responsible. And I say to this day, a man that many of you might think is a good man, a man called Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, he is neck deep in the cover-up. He is neck deep in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children and trying to keep a lid on it.
Why do you say that?
Because he went away and created, well, for one, he's in charge of the police, he's the police and crime commissioner. Is the first thing. Do you think people come and arrest me and do this to me without sign off at the highest level? He knew about it because I know he knew about it. And then he did an assurance review, an investigation into the cover-up of Oldham, and it was a whitewash. He commissioned a review, stood in front of the national cameras and said, oh, yes, we found this, but we've not found any evidence of the stuff I talked about. And then when we ripped his report apart, Andy Burnham's assurance review, you'll find it, it's 2 years, nearly 3 years after it was published, and now it's all come out. He's backtracked and claimed his assurance review was limited. Shall I tell you how it was limited, Doc? His investigators didn't even go and speak to a single child who was gang raped. What sort of investigation conducts itself over 2 years? What sort of government investigation conducts itself over 2 years into the gang rape of children and doesn't speak to children who are gang raped?
Oh, dude, this is horrific. So the cops aren't arresting the real criminals, the real rapists.
They're arresting the people who are trying to expose it.
And they're trying to harass and arrest the people who
repeatedly arrested. Repeatedly
Oh,
arrested.
for God's sake. Oh, for God's sake. I'm so sorry to hear this. Right, so I'm going to look at something. Report finds serious failings in the protection of children from grooming gangs in Rochdale. This is February 22nd. And it was independent review team was commissioned by Andy Burnham in 2017 to look at the effectiveness of multi-agency responses. This is now the third report, so there's been several reports.
Oldham was part 2. Rochdale was part 3. Let me share something about part 1. Andy Burnham commissioned this review after watching...
He's a former Labour...
He's a Labour Health Secretary, ran for leader, and is now the Greater Manchester Mayor. Very powerful figure in the Labour Party.
He's been there for quite a while now, hasn't he?
Yeah, very powerful figure in the Labour Party. Andy Burnham, when he found out about this, because he's a veteran of the Hillsborough campaign, the Hillsborough for Justice campaign with the because he's a veteran of that, he would have known that him commissioning any inquiry would not be able to get to the truth, because it does not have the power to compel witnesses. It does not have the power to go and get the evidence. It's reliant on those he's investigating to provide the evidence against him. So they kicked it into the long grass, is what they did.
Who did they investigate? Who did they speak to?
So in the first instance, it's a paper trail, basically a paper trail. And if they speak to witnesses, because they asked me, would I testify? Because I forced what became the Oldham Review, and I said, of course I'll testify. Then it emerges that my testimony isn't going to be recorded.
Why?
It's not in the terms of reference, brother. It's not going to be recorded, and their investigators are going to take selective notes that they think is relevant.
That's garbage.
That is what Andy Burnham set up. It's garbage. I mean, can you legitimize that?
No,
you can't, can you? And then his investigators went and failed to interview any of the children who were groomed and gang raped. His investigators in Manchester, which is the first one, went and identified that 97 members of a grooming gang had an investigation against them closed like that.
Oh, well, hold on.
97 members of a grooming gang had an investigation closed by Greater Manchester Police and Manchester City Council like that. And you ready for this?
Yeah.
No one will own up to who closed that investigation down, and the minutes of the meeting where that decision was made have been lost.
You are kidding.
No.
One cover-up after another. Yeah. One layer of lies and deceit. Coating. This is bullshit.
Yeah. And that's why we've been campaigning for a public inquiry, because we don't want these local politicians involved with these rape gangs.
Yeah, of course not.
Investigating themselves, and we don't want the police investigating themselves when the police are complicit.
Andy Burnham calls for limited national inquiry into sexual abuse gangs.
And we forced that.
This is 10th of January 25.
Yeah. So
limited. What does that mean, limited national inquiry?
So first of all, he acknowledges that his review was limited. So it took him 2.5 years to accept, and you'll read it there, it took him 2.5 years to accept that his investigation wasn't capable of getting to the truth. But he never said that during any of that period until we forced him.
Yeah, but why is he calling for a limited national inquiry? Why not a limited? Why? That sounds like hands tied behind your back. Why isn't it a full inquiry?
Because he wants to protect the findings of his investigators from his early investigations. Because what if a public inquiry came along and said to you, this inquiry that was done 2 years ago is a load of shit and part of the cover-up?
But he says that saying the scope of the local inquiry that he commissioned in Oldham did not have the same legal powers.
Well, then why did he commission it? And why did he put his name to it? Do you see how it all, when you tell the truth, you tell the truth, don't you? And the truth stands up to scrutiny. And when you're trying to backtrack and cover up what you've done wrong in the past, it unravels.
Can I be honest with you? I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, but I have to say I'm glad he's shone a light on this.
I am.
I'll be honest with you, because you know what? If it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have been on my radar.
No, if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have caused the outrage it's caused. It wouldn't have got the profile. Because the BBC and the mainstream media are complicit in the cover-up.
Have you been asked to go on a show and chat about this?
Not one of them. Not one of them will speak to me.
Why not?
Because I take it to a place that is too uncomfortable. Because I go beyond the cliches of, oh, it's the Pakistani men that did it. I ask the reasons why they were allowed to get away with it.
Yeah.
Who was involved? And I named names. I've named names. Immediately after the Oldham Review, Burnham's where he now admits it's limited. Immediately after that, the MP, a man called Jim McMahon, another MP called Debbie Abrahams. Debbie Abrahams is a chair of the Select Committee in the government now. McMahon is a government minister. And the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, released a statement on Commons letterheaded paper making reference to Burnham's review as one of the best reviews of this kind ever.
Really?
Yes. I'll send it you. I'll send you the document.
Send it to me.
And they are neck deep in this cover-up. So you got the Deputy Prime Minister now neck deep in this cover-up. And I name them because I've got the evidence. I'll show you the evidence.
Oh, dude, this is really bad, isn't it? It's really bad. So here we are. Oldham. Hold on a sec. I need to share the screen. Right, share screen. This is from quite a long time ago. 2022. Oldham MPs released joint statement on child sexual exploitation report.
You'll find my name though where they call me a racist.
The MPs have released a joint statement following the publication of the Oldham Independent Assurance Review into child sexual exploitation. The damning report, which is 200 pages long, was published more than 2.5 years ago after it was commissioned by Mayor Andy Burnham and Deputy Mayor Baroness Beverly Hughes. Jim McMahon. Following the publication of Oldham Independent Assurance Review this morning, myself, Debbie Abrahams, MP, and Angela Rayner have released the following statement.
There you go. Read the first sentence.
This is one of the most comprehensive safeguarding reviews undertaken, and we welcome the recognition of the progress that was made in Oldham in shining a light on, disrupting and tackling child sexual exploitation and raising awareness to increase reporting.
Complete and utter lie.
Dude, is there still today child grooming going
100%.
on in Oldham?
100%.
Is there?
100%.
So you're telling me that in Oldham right now, today, in 2025, January 2025, there's still child grooming and exploitation.
I want you, and just for you to look at yourself, because I want to share this with you so you see it, if it's okay.
Yeah.
I will.
Dude, I'm so sad right now.
Do
you know what? Honestly, I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
I want you to look at this.
Fucking.
I can't bring it up, but I'll send it you. But a grandmother contacted me yesterday.
Yeah?
A grandmother contacted me yesterday with a message because they groom through access. So these taxi drivers, the taxi service was involved throughout, yeah? And they have school contracts.
No.
Yes.
Oh, shut up.
Yes.
Oh, dude, just when I think it can't get any worse, now you're telling me this?
Yes. The review team there claimed the allegations are made about taxi ranks. There was no truth to it. And then you read the actual report. They were still giving taxi licenses to men that they were convicted sex offenders.
You're joking.
No, I'm not joking.
Dude, this is rotten. This is so deep rotten. How bad? I mean, just when you think it can't get any worse.
They said they dispersed it and the work they did. The investigation in Oldham looked at between 2011 to 2014. Very time limited, yeah? Only in specific places. They excluded schools from their investigation, because we'd been releasing information how children had been groomed on school gates and teachers were going into houses and bringing children back. We'd released all that information. They didn't want to go and investigate that because you can't hide it. But in 2011, it was confirmed children were being dragged off the streets into shisha bars, where they smoke. Rooms were being let out by the hour. Continued in 2011, continued in 2012, continued in 2013.
Do you know what I think is needed? I think what's needed is they get castrated, they get their dicks chopped off and fed to them, they get the tattoo on the head, they serve 10 years in prison, and then they get deported.
I would deport every last one.
No, I'm being serious. Every fucking one, and their families as well. Because you know what? That sends a message. If you're going to come to this country and act like this, act like animals,
we want nothing to do with you.
We want nothing.
We want nothing to do with you.
And you know what? Every single one of you. And your family, your extended family, every single one of you can fuck off.
And it'd be the best thing for community cohesion because, those of us who are here are the ones who want to be here.
And the good ones.
Live by the law and everything.
Have integrated.
Yeah, it'd be fine, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't need to be worried about, we're getting tarnished with the same brush. Here's a packy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be associated with any of these people. No, I'm being serious. This is why I was stressed. I was like, oh my God, they're freaking packies. What the hell? This is embarrassing. This is ridiculous. And that's what needs to be done. They need to be punished and they need to be deported.
And the ones who were responsible in covering them up need to be put in prison, need to have their pensions took off them, and the money that they would have earned needs to go into some sort of fund that supports the survivors.
Look, I think that's a really good place to end. I'm conscious of the time. It's late. It's 8 o'clock. You need to get home. And dude, listen, can I just say something? I have so much respect for you. I had respect for you before I even met you, which is why I invited you. I have even more respect for you now. Like, you've really dedicated your life to exposing this at great personal cost and stress. And you're clearly a good man trying to do the right thing.
Thank you. It means a lot. Those words and the kindness of strangers in this journey has kept me going. You know, I'll be honest with you, the kindness of strangers, the random messages I get, an email or a text or something on X saying, Raja, good on you. It means everything. It means everything because the entire system has worked together to close me down. And why? Because I wouldn't shut up to the abuse of children.
Exactly. Where can people find you?
Twitter's the best one. Or X, it's now called recusant_Raja.
Recusant_Raja. Okay. Right. And what about, you said you had started a Substack.
Oh, it's a ghost platform. It's like Substack, redwallandtherabble.co.uk.
So you haven't posted anything yet?
Yeah, there's lots. Redwallandtherabble.co.uk.
Red Wall and the Rabble.
Yeah, they called us rabble. So the people in my town who supported me to demonize them, they called us rabble. So we took the word and okay, you want to call us rabble? We're happy being described as rabble.
And Red Wall, because that's the
it's a Labour stronghold.
It's a Labour stronghold.
Yeah.
And you're basically a threat to them.
Yeah.
And you're not politically affiliated with anyone.
No.
You're neutral.
Yeah, I stood for MP in my town, got 2,500 votes. I stood as an independent.
Well done. Good for you. Oh, dude, listen, I've got a signature question you probably don't know. I ask this to everyone.
Oh, go on.
Look, you're on your deathbed. It could be next week, right? You got your young kid in front of you, your loved ones. Before you pass on and meet your maker, what words of wisdom or advice would you recommend to them and tell them before you depart this world?
Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see in the world. It's up to us. Be the change you want to see in the world.
All right, brother. Listen, I seriously wish you all the best and support. You're welcome here anytime to come back and update us. If you're not getting publicity elsewhere, I'll come.
I'll happily come down.
I'll try my best. I'm not Joe Rogan yet, but I'll try my best. I've really, truly got the utmost respect. I mean, I would say to you, if my dad was here, he would say to you, and my dad was a great guy, he would say you are a true Muslim in the way that he practiced, which was to love humanity and to be the best example of yourself and to take care of everyone and love them and be a good man. And actually, you know what? He used to tell me when I was a kid at the back of the shoe shop, in the 80s, he'd be like, son, I know so many Pakistanis who came over and they were so corrupt. They burnt their cash and carries. They claimed insurance. They became millionaires. He said, you know what? I could have become a millionaire. They even said to me, oh, come on, Malik, Saab, come on. You just do this and, burn it down and you get so much money and you can join us. He went, you know what? I will live with myself and I need to meet the maker. These people are all fake. They're fake Muslims. They're fake good people. Always live yourself in a way that is true and authentic and as if God is watching you.
You need to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah. These people are scum. They're like satanic as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. Satanic's the right word. Yeah.
All right, brother. I love you, man.
Oh, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you so much. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.